Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in overdrive, and tomorrow we'll have these gentlemen during the main show in the noontime hour back in studio with us. They would have been on last hour, but we had Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs on, who, again, was in heavy combat, in vehicles blown up by large bombs, IEDs, and, you know, the engine's blown down the street in the opposite direction of where the car is resting up against a tree. He knows explosives. He's like, this just doesn't fit. Something very serious is going on. This isn't a radio show about entertainment. I mean, sometimes because I'm a human, I joke around and stuff just because I can't stay serious all the time. I've got my life in my hands. I know a lot of people that have been murdered in every big event like this just to cover up other murders. And we're going to have in studio with us today, but also on the nightly news in more detail, and then back tomorrow in studio, two gentlemen, James Lane, of course, who was involved in the film A Noble Lie that we also sell at InfoWarsStore.com, and Richard Grove. And Richard Grove's site is tragedyandhope.com. FreeMindFilms.com is the main site for their films. I'm the exclusive distributor in the first 3 months or so of State of Mind. That when I saw it, I just said, well, I'm going to get behind this. I'm in it. It's got a bunch of people in it. We're going to talk about this film. You can pre-order it now. It ships on the 15th of July. It premieres on prisonplanet.tv. And we're going to do a big taping tomorrow. It's actually tomorrow, where we're going to talk about the film beforehand, stop a few times, and talk about parts and developments. And it's going to premiere for prisonplanet.tv viewers. I appreciate you guys having us do that. It's going to premiere on the 17th of July, that Wednesday here coming up next month. But it's very important to support independent filmmaking. It's very important to wake your friends and family up. And believe me, this is a very professional film. I'm very honored to be part of it. It's even better because you get better as a filmmakers than their Noble Lie. That was a premiere film that was better than probably what I could do in many cases. So they're just really doing an incredible job with the rest of their team. And you can get the film at State of Mind, The Psychology of Control. And until it sells out, which should be any day now, this is the first 5,000 orders, you can get free the animated film on the history of the Federal Reserve. It's very entertaining, great to wake people up. The American Dream. We'll have to take that down the next few days because we're getting very close to 5,000 of these being sold. So take advantage of that at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. I may be able to get a better deal and get more of these and bring the special back, but we got a really good deal on these 10,000 of these, but we sold 5,000 of them and have 5,000 left. And I said, well, let's just offer that. It's such an important film, and we got a really good deal on it. So I said, let's just offer it free. That's what I do. When I get stuff really low priced, then I just give it to you. Because my goal is all about waking people up. That's why the new magazine's out has 10 free bumper stickers in the July issue. That's because I want to wake people up. I want to defeat the New World Order. I'm risking my life doing this because I've studied history. I want to make a difference. I want to empower people. Men and women that stand up for justice are what have made everything in our world good that's good. And there's always that struggle. Now, I was talking to James Lane, the founding of Free Minds Films and the director of A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City 95, and The Psychology of Control. And his mission is to alter the information paradigm with hard-hitting exposés of state crimes and cover-ups. And Richard Grove filed for federal whistleblower protection under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of '02. And we're going to get into that because that ties into the NSA and everything that's happening right now. And he's just done a whole bunch of work. I'm not going to get into his whole bio. You can find out more at tragedyandhope.com. But I've mentioned this. When I start thinking, what you said before you went live here, James, whenever I start thinking about all the people I know that have been murdered, and in many cases, when it's on record they've been murdered, nobody knows who. And then Cop of the Year Terrence Yeaky, and you've interviewed his family. You know, they're in the Noble Lie film. He said the feds are after me to his partner. They pull him over, they torture him, shoot him in the back of the head. Then you interview the cop, Browning, the head of the K-9 unit that I've had on the show, naming FBI that walked in and said, you and your wife are dead if you don't shut up. I mean, I know the real world. And I know that it's a mafia that runs this, and the parallels of Terrence Yeaky, Cop of the Year, and him seeing the feds involved in the bombing, first person to respond, and what happened to Michael Hastings. I mean, look, at my gut, they killed him. James Lane talking about that and interjecting with Oklahoma City and the mind control of how we just, oh, our government's the good guys. It's tinfoil hat. They might kill somebody when it's on record they've done this over and over again. And then I want to get Richard Grove's take on this and tie it into his whole whistleblower case. So, gentlemen, good to have you here.
Thank you for having us on, Alex. Yeah, when I heard about the Michael Hastings case, that was the first thing, you know, well, when the information broke that you know, the feds were following him. That's the first thing I think of is Terrence Yakey. And a lot of people would ask us, you know, it's 17 years on. Why are you still investigating the Oklahoma City bombing? Why does it matter? Well, because look at this. And if we don't expose these, we don't show people, this continues to happen. This is still a methodology that they will use over and over again. You know, with Terry, he was trying to take some documents to some storage, and he said that the feds were following him. Then that's where they find him dead.
He said, I got to go. The feds are on my tail.
Yeah. And, you know, they declared his death a suicide, you know, and it was very obvious that it wasn't. I mean, he had lacerations. All
it was Vince Foster style.
He had was shot through the top of the head at a far enough distance that it didn't leave powder residue, etc.
And they got back when they did it, yeah.
Right, and this was still whenever the official story was formulating in the public mind, and so they couldn't allow any information to come out at that time. It seems like, you know, well, after the operation has occurred, you know, that's okay. But, you know,
how mad do you think they are that our reporters took over all those Boston bombing press conferences? You know, they shot the guy that knew the Patsy brothers in the top of the head, too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's getting in on the front end of it. This is where, you know, we're trying to expose this stuff.
If they're going to kill me for anything, I think it's that.
Well, this is why your show is so important. I mean, who else is putting this information out, you know? So, yeah, I'm just... I
don't mean to obsess on it. It's just my gut feels the danger level. Yeah. I feel the angel of death flapping around. I mean, you know, it's...
Yeah, but with Terry,
kind of interesting, huh?
With Terry, he said, you know, when the official story was starting to unravel, he said that's not the way it happened. You know, he was very distraught over that. And, you know, when they said his family's asking questions, they're like, oh, you're just paranoid, you watch too much TV. And, you know, it's all about...
What about Browning? They come in his office twice and said, we're going to kill you and your wife.
Yeah, yeah, they basically said, yeah, people that ask questions like you, they end up dead. No, them and their wife end up dead. FBI agent saying that to him, you know, and he knew that was a threat. You know, it was just a blatant threat. And
he said again by the water cooler too.
Yeah, it's all about intimidation, you know, and just trying to squash the information.
I got to be honest. I mean, somebody said that to me, I'd have a lot of trouble not, you know, punching him right in the nose. But that's how cowardly America's gotten. Don has incredible courage to go public. I'm just saying, everybody just grovels to the government. Oh, threaten to kill me. That's wonderful.
Well, and this is part of why we wanted to make State of Mind, is because once a Noble Lie came out, we were asking, why don't more people question these events? You know, and so we really wanted to look at the mechanism that put people into, you know, conditioning and under a level of control where they don't question, where they just, you know, accept authority without question. And so we really wanted to break down the methodology of how it's done, not just the
We'll talk about mind control. People in national security, because I've talked to so many of them, friends, family, others, they're told, you ever don't do what we say, we're going to kill you. And it's this attitude of they're allowed to kill us. I mean, it's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, oh, it's for the greater good, you know. It's like, yeah, sometimes they might have to kill Americans. It's you know, and we don't need to know about it because, you know, the government knows best. You know, and that whole mindset, where did that really solidify in people's minds? You know, we find that in public education, this is really where it starts. It's not about learning to think critically, using logic and reason. I mean, I had to deprogram myself after I got out of school and teach myself how to think, because it was all about accepting authority and regurgitating useless facts so you become a cog in the machine.
Tell us about your experience as a whistleblower.
My experience as a whistleblower started out being a naive corporate worker. So I'm there just trying to, you know, live up to the standards that I was brought up with through American culture. And then when you get into, you know, the workplace and you're surrounded by people who might not have the same values, because I come from the Midwest, we have a different set of values than people in New York City. When you see things that are unseemly, when you see things that are illegal and you blow the whistle under protection, you expect protection from your corporation, not a standard operating procedure to fire you, to terminate you. And so, you know, going to court, I thought, well, I'm going to get justification. I'm going to present evidence. Going to the media, I thought maybe they would cover the story. And after proving everything in court and going to people like Lowell Bergman, who said, yeah, there's valid information here, but we can't cover it. And so then I just started to discover alternative media to go out and look beyond what I was being force-fed through the Wall Street Journal or, you know, USA Today is what they give you at the hotel, right? And I started reading into things like Foreign Affairs, where you can see, you know, these people have a transnationalist agenda. They're here to collectivize America. They're here to undermine our education, and they do it also, they reinforce it through TV and corporate media. And so they're breaking down the self-reliance, self-esteem, self-confidence of Americans to make us spineless. And that's reinforced, as you've noticed many times or observed on your show, the father figure in sitcoms. Spineless individual who's being run into the ground, can't solve problems by themselves. And so by taking away the intellectual tools of how to learn anything for ourselves, they've made us very, very dependent on authority.
I got to get this guy on more often.
Yeah, we're really lucky to get him to come on board as the head researcher and writer for...
Yeah, I didn't go over your whole bio. Tell folks a little bit more about yourself.
Well, let's see. After finding out that corporate media was kind of debunked and it's on its way out because they no longer have investigative journalists or budgets, I'll pull that a little closer.
There you go. You're good.
Then you start to notice these press conferences. Actually,
you're good. I'm aiming it right at you.
There you go.
It's on you now.
And you start to notice the press, the contradictions. You start to pick up on the contradictions, and you start to dig into it. And what I thought, when I first was still wearing a suit at corporate world every day, was that. Well, this will just pass.
Skip this network break, guys. Keep going.
This is just something that you see on the internet that has no credibility. But when I dug into books like Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope, or The Anglo-American Establishment, or John Taylor Gatto's The Underground History of American
It's just all admitted.
Scientific Dictatorship is Chapter 9 in Gatto's book, and it explains clearly Bertrand Russell and these other transhumanists, transnationalists, all these different agendas that you cover on your show, they all have commonality. This is a finite planet. The globalists are a finite group of people. And Hastings or Jeannie Palfrey or Gary Webb or any of these other investigative journalists or people who have had stories that, needed coverage, they have to come here because luckily we have someplace on this planet that does have the budget to get these big interviews. I don't have the ability to do this myself. I couldn't interview Sergeant Joe Biggs today and break that story. So I'm grateful that there are people out there that are, aiding you and assisting you because I've seen you struggle over the years. And
well, I'm trying to get that's why I try to support other media outlets, show that we're not one of the only ones doing it. Because I just want to win this thing. It's not about being a big media guy. I mean, if I'm successful, they'll probably take me out somehow, if not physically, politically. So my mission is almost like a mushroom to get my spores out there so that there's a million mushrooms so they can never wipe us all out. That's why I've got the reporters. That's why I'm trying to build an organization so even if they get me, it continues, because then that makes killing me obsolete. I mean, these are the type of thoughts we have to have around here.
Well, it's worked because, I mean, this was the inspiration for me to start Free Mind Films, was I wanted to be able to participate in this and create tools because we have our roots in street activism. So I want to be able to give people tools that they can take to their friends and family, the uninitiated, and present it in a way where, it's acceptable to them. It's like it's not just for the choir. We want this to show to the uninitiated where you can really give them a foundational understanding of the control, and then maybe be able to escape it, and then just start looking at the bigger pictures.
State of mind is kind of a starting point. So it gives you the tools to communicate with your friends and family and coworkers in a credible and desirable way. And it also is backed by a lot of research where we're able to bring you in depth. So for the choir, there's something else. And for the congregation, it's something meaty. So you have this additional information that is available if you want to dig in past the film and see about any of these underlying agendas of MKUltra or eugenics or any of these other things that are covered in its depth and entirety with references.
Tell folks who all is in the film.
Well, we have Giora Griffin. We have Anthony Schaefer. He was specifically talking about some of the PSYOPs, kind of breaking those down with his experience in the military intelligence. We've got several psychologists. We've got Colin Ross. We've got John Rappaport.
Bruce Levine.
Bruce Levine. And Bruce Levine, I actually found him through one of the shows that you did on Prison Planet. And the guy really comes up with solutions. It's not, it's not just pointing it out. He comes up with ideas.
He's a great psychologist.
Yeah. Get Up, Stand Up, I think was his book. And it was very inspirational. We've got Charlotte Iserbeet, Kay Beach, great activist, yourself. So really good lineup of people, a real broad spectrum. And to get the psychologists in there, man, they've got a way of just getting right to the heart of the matter, be it, pharmacological control of society or, the coming up with disorders like anti-authoritarian personality disorder. These types of things.
Which should be, doesn't want to be a slave disorder.
Yeah. And so we were really pleased with the lineup. I think these folks really get the message across.
Well, the film is available at InfoWarsStore.com, State of Mind, the Psychology of Control. And it's so important to get the film so that you're informed at a higher level so you can wake up your friends and family, but also to support these filmmakers and what we're doing. You vote with your dollars. We're not like MSNBC and others that get taxpayer funds. We don't get Rockefeller Foundation funds. We are supported by viewers and listeners out there like you. And we also have it on Blu-ray, because I said, hey, we're going to put this out on DVD. I paid to put some Blu-rays out as well, because Obama Deception 2 is going to be out on Blu-ray. And, the whole issue here is it's good to have a hard copy of things like this as well. We will premiere it on InfoWars Nightly News the 17th. As it's already being shipped out to everybody that buys a hard copy, then obviously that'll be available to people out of the gates, a film for everybody to be able to see free after it's been on prisonplanet.tv. But you have to understand something. That's because they want to get the information out to people. And if they don't sell enough to make their money back, there won't be any more films. So we're right at the level at current sales that maybe within 3-4 months, because that's really the main life of a film, that it tapers off, to try to even make their money back. So for heaven's sakes, folks, we're up here risking our lives. You guys definitely risk your lives in the Oklahoma City film. People, they kill a lot of people over that. So we're here risking our lives. You need to buy the film. I mean, people out there should buy 5 copies and give it to friends and family. People should get prisonplanet.tv memberships, and you should. After premieres live that night, during the live show, then we're going to go to tape and play the film. You should use your prisonplanet.tv membership, the next day when you have the high-quality download of it off the site, to have your friends and family come over, maybe the 18th, or watch it live stream that night. The whole point is that it's now time to go out and proselytize for liberty to other people. I want us to beat this evil, and we've got to become aware of the evil if we have any chance of doing it. And what do you guys think is happening? Because you're both really smart guys. I've heard your radio shows, over the years. Well, I feel like I know you so good, even though we've only met a few times in the past when you were making films. Why do you think they're racing ahead right now, and why do you think the agenda is coming out in the open? Because people are spinning it, saying, Snowden must be an agent and blah, blah, blah. But I've experienced every time I do something, I know I'm not an agent. I know I'm real. And they say, oh, he must be an insider, because of the fact that he's been successful. It's almost like this idea that no one can be successful but evil people, when that's not true. That's what's so frustrating. So what do you think's happening in the state of the battle right now?
Well, we were talking about this just before the show. It's like trying to hold a ball underwater. Its natural state is to pop out, and
we're
they have
inflating
to
the ball.
Yeah, they are exerting so much control to keep it underwater, and these types of efforts, yes, inflate the ball.
Brzezinski said his greatest fear is a massive global awakening of consciousness, and that's what they're seeing right now. They're seeing the internet used and social networks used in a way that they never imagined. They wanted to data mine us, to use artificial intelligence, to chew on that data mining, to provide profiles, to predict our behavior and control us like human resources.
And now they're predicting their defeat.
Yeah, absolutely. And so people are waking up faster and faster, and the massive global awakening of consciousness is stimulated by independent media. We are the ones waking people up. Everyone who does something on their own without being told by an authority to do it, or a big corporation paying you to do it, thinking on our own, using our creativity and imagination, that which corporate society and education wants to snuff out, by reigniting those flames of liberty, then evil doesn't have to happen because good people do nothing. Good people know how to do something and get it done.
And all it takes is to get involved. Just one step leads to the next, I mean, a lot of this starts out with just local activism, or like you said, take the bumper stickers, put those on a car, give the magazine.
Big things have small beginnings. What did you make of Staff Sergeant Biggs on saying, I've just got to stand up. I can't be a coward. My gut tells me this is bad. It doesn't add up. And now others will stand up, and then they'll crush people. What I found is when they crush whistleblowers, it scares the cowards. They're already cowards, but it makes the real men and women actually fight harder. I see them having to kill a bunch of people as the beginning of the end.
Last desperate act. I mean, I think that, we see that we're getting closer to critical mass. I mean, everything's out in the open. I mean, some of the T-shirts I wear and stuff, I just got, random people will come up and start talking about the NSA, coming out saying, that they're monitoring everybody. It's like, well, everybody was talking about this, 96, 97 with Echelon and Carnivore. It's like, well, now it's just out in the open. So much has come out. Again, you said, social media, we're taking their tools and using them against
them. And everybody remembers that they made fun of us and said we were crazy liars, and then exactly what we told them came true because it was already there.
Yeah.
It didn't come true. They just took the blinders off.
It was what,
and we're not
06
prophets,
with
but they have business plans. And if you read these business plans, you can understand their agenda.
No, that's it. They have business plans.
Exactly. And they're intellectually bankrupt. They're irrational. They use force, fraud, and coercion to attain their goals.
That's another thing. I've studied these elitists. They have the most unhappy families. Their kids are all committing suicide. I mean, it's not good for them either.
Right.
I mean, it's not good to screw everybody over. It's going to come back on you.
Yeah, and well, and I mean, they're pure ego, they're pure just will, and that's why I think why there's so much infighting within their own ranks. You know.
Thank God.
Yes.
Well, and one of the other things we've lost in this country is integrity as a core value. And people in this country say they value truth. The people who read
my most valuable possession is my integrity.
Right.
I mean, I really enjoy. It's not just like I'm a goody two shoes. I feel good knowing that I really am a good guy. That's why they always try to say I'm not good, because the system knows. They know that. They don't want you to think there's other good people.
Well, integrity is doing what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. And it's about that consistency that your friends and family can trust you and coworkers. And so our whole society is based on trust. And JP Morgan said at one point, the entire banking system is made on trust. And they've broken that trust. They've broken that trust. They've abused their system. And that's what's causing people to wake up. And they're not going to go back to sleep because there's only more and more and more substance to find.
Wow, man, awesome. Let's come back and do another segment or two. Great job with the crew in there and all the listeners. And then you're going to be on the news tonight. Back for an hour tomorrow to get into the film itself. We're going to play some video clips tomorrow. And I want to ask you when we come back, though, I mean, what did you make of that Biggs interview? You were out there listening. What did you think of that?
It was fantastic. I mean, it's really great that somebody today can see that there's something going on and have the urge and the motivation to make a phone call and spread that information.
And go against the mind control.
Right.
All the peer pressure.
Exactly. And to have an outlet like what you have.
We're on the march.
Absolutely. We'll be right back.
The Empire's on the run.
Alex Jones here, back live. By the way, here's a Herald Sun article. Hastings previously revealed he'd been subjected to death threats during his investigation of General McChrystal, saying it was commonplace in his line of work. Wherever I'd been reporting around groups of dudes whose job it was to kill people, one of them would usually mention that they were going to kill me. And it's not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. We have a degenerate ruling class of corporate anti-liberty fascists using disgusting socialism at the grassroots to create a bunch of sycophantic, lazy dolts to be used as political weapons to pull down society. I mean, every message you see out there is anti-family, anti-this, anti-that, and all the fake equality moves you see promoted are not about real equality. It's about the federal government manipulating groups of people against each other. I mean, it is unbelievable. But there's the Herald Sun. And I'd forgotten, because I remember reading this about a year ago, that he was being death threatened. And then his buddy mentioned it, and then it was the weirdest thing. I wasn't even searching it. I already had an article up there about reporter Michael Hastings sent panicky email, and then I just looked as he was talking to me, and there was the Herald Sun with it saying it. While he's talking about it, I'd seen that nowhere in the news, and the article I had up said it from 2 days ago. I mean, it's just, it's hiding in plain view. And his wife comes out and says, we're going to find out who did this. We're going to take down whoever did this. And I'm telling, he said off air to me that she was busy. Should have got this on air, in grief right now. He may have said it on air. It all mixes together. But she better either decide to pack it up and shut up, and that's still a dangerous course, or go totally public now. That's probably the safest course. I mean, it's not very safe to just say I'm going to shut up because they know that she may go public later. And look, they'll kill her. I mean, they'll kill everybody because I've been talking about this for 2 weeks since it came out in the New York Times. It just reminded me that hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops got nerve gassed. Even USA Today admitted it. Our government ordered the stuff blown up, knew the wind was blowing right into Kuwait, let them huff it, said, take your mask off, just like the World Trade Center collapsed, because they didn't want to admit it was hurting them when the detectors went off. Just take your mask off as a sign of, see, it's safe. By the way, we're going to helicopter out of here as the generals real fast. Knowing it was a slow death sentence, did they cross anybody? No, it's like they get off on hurting people. What do you think that psychology is? Because they use psychology on us, but they're the ones that are really screwed up.
Well, I mean, they're a lot of the hallmarks of psychopaths. I mean, you know, and it's psychopaths are what genetic and environmental, and they're told from birth that they're, you know, through social Darwinism that they're superior to, you know, all the rest of us. And yeah, it's like Orwell talking about, you know, it's the thrill of victory over a helpless victim. You know, and
trampling and being trampled forever.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Dr. Bruce Levine talks about in State of Mind is learned helplessness. And I think this is what, you know, people have to overcome in order to really get engaged and get involved. And it's, you know, after so many times of thinking that they can't do anything, that they are powerless, then they just stop trying. You know, and it's just getting that motivation to try.
Stop giving up.
And like this Biggs man, he's not going to roll over. He doesn't have to learn helplessness. He said he's going to get involved and do something. And you know, more brave people like that need to step up, and that's where we hit the critical mass.
Well, he made the decision on air. He said, "I'm going to do more. I'm going to go full into this." And I could hear him doing that. And I didn't tell him, you know, who I thought was behind it and stuff off air to scare him. I wanted him to know, and it was so he understands. Okay. Listen, you're not imagining this, bud. Your common sense, you know, they killed your buddy.
And if you're going to come out big, you know, because then more people will be aware if they actually.
That's what Garrison said.
Yeah,
Jim Garrison.
Yep.
Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer says in his extended interview, I think it got cut from the film, but he says at one point, he explains very clearly that the Pentagon's rules for information warfare include assassinations. And so he explains that if there's a political figure, if there's an activist figure, if there's a whistleblower figure, that falls under the realm of infowar, of psychological warfare and infowar, the carrying out of assassinations on activists. So you're looking at intraspecific kleptoparasites. These are people of the same species who are preying on us. They prey on our, we produce.
Say that again.
Intraspecific kleptoparasites.
Did you coin that?
No, it's a 1952 paper by Miriam Rothschild. So they study animals. There's a whole bunch of Rothschild species from, you know, they use their money to study animals and human beings to understand us and control us. So there's Rothschild giraffes, butterflies, all these different things. So they find.
No, I knew they named a lot of animals after themselves. Yeah.
Right. So they came up with this term for it was gulls that they were studying at the time, but they're saying of the same species preying on each other, and that's,
sure. Well, that's what I've said. That's what it is. It is predator guilds above us. We are not the apex predator. The psychopath inbred guild is the apex predator.
Well, and they've built protection systems over time. So these are multi-generational guilds of psychopaths, of sociopaths, of people who don't care about anyone else's free rights or free will.
Well, they enjoy, actually.
Yeah, they get off on taking the power.
I mean, look at the BBC with their child raping guild. I mean, it's, you know.
And they need people's fear to control them, because fear shuts down your mind. It makes you stimulus response. Stimulus response is slavery. Stimulus thinking response is freedom. We have to put that thinking back in between stimulus and response.
What would you call the instinct just to absolutely have to resist this? That's my I mean, I'm trying to stop species death. My whole instinct is defend humanity, stop these people.
I think that's just being human, man. I think that's just a human response to this abnormal situation that has gotten out of hand because we've been lied to for so long. But now we're...
And what happens is good people are just as mean or even meaner than these mean people. We just don't get in that mode. They know once we get in the mode, they're done.
Right.
Once we get in the mode, it's over for them.
Right. And we have to be serious about this, because there's no do-overs, there's no mulligans, right? And so we all have to work together. We have to unite all the forces, you know, and get together on common ground. We have commonality with every other human being on this planet insofar as that we want our right to live. We want our right to property so that we can preserve our life and these sort of things. And this other group just wants to take that away. And there's a long, credible history to it. And it's sad that American children are being denied that education in school.
Well, they admit it's a multi-thousand-year war against humanity, and that's why they call it the final revolution, finally breaking us where we can never defeat them again.
Well, and it's, you know, it's very obvious to all the listeners, you know, that it's moving towards a collectivist plan. I mean, that's the obvious goal. But now you're trying to get a lot of individualists to act in a collective manner, and it is difficult sometimes. But it's just because, you know, maybe this activist path is different than the other. That doesn't mean that we're not all heading to the same destination.
All roads lead to the end of the New World Order.
Exactly.
And in fact, the fact that we're going in so many different directions is why they can't stop us. That's been my goal, is just to generate as many resistance operations.
So the fact that we're becoming autonomous because we're thinking for ourselves and directing ourselves, and nobody's telling us to go out and do this. American schooling is based on a Prussian schooling model, which, as you very well know, leaves people to be obedient servants, not self-critical, you know, self-thinkers that are critically thinking about their life.
The most important thing I do now is everywhere in public, even my wife or kids are there, I just start talking about the New World Order, and I make a big scene. And in a nice way. When somebody tries to peck at me in a bureaucratic way, I just go, okay, let's get it out in the open here. This is going to be, this goes two ways. I'm about to inform you. And they always go, I actually know that's true. I go, you know you're a slave. You know the system's after you. You know you're acting pathetic on a power trip, imagining you're in charge. Tune into your real humanity right now and stop acting like that. And it almost always breaks their trance.
Well, and they've wrote books about this through history, like 1939, H.G. Wells' New World Order. He very clearly in there says that they want to create a world government and create a new religion. That new religion is non-critical thinking. It's stimulus, response, operant conditioning is the religion.
Robot.
Robot, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just turning people into cogs in a machine.
What was it like for you as you began to discover this stuff?
Oh, it was pretty scary because everyone was just like, drop it and go back to work. Go find another job. Just get along to go along to get along. Don't worry about this. And people were saying, look, it doesn't really matter if there's a backdoor in the Sarbanes-Oxley software that's federally mandated to protect from another Enron or Tyco. And Tyco was one of my clients, and they said, we don't want to keep this data like the regulations say. We want to use the back door so we can hide all this stuff. So what you see with the financial collapse and all this NSA spying is they've kept every piece of information except the evidence to catch the people who stole the quadrillions of dollars.
Well, no, it's just like the electronic voting machine software always is designed to let the hacker in and then close it and cover it up.
Right.
It's a system designed for crime.
Right.
I mean, unbelievable.
It's a prophylactic product, but that prophylactic has a hole in it, purposely, because they're trying to get America pregnant with this criminal syndicate.
Well, what they do is they always create trapdoors for them, but that we don't know about.
Right.
Like all the rich people, they don't pay any taxes. They don't give tips. These globalists are all the same. That's why people always hate the Bilderbergs so bad. They'll go and have like $500 a piece dinners and then not even pay for it, and taxpayers pay, and then no tip, and then say, I want this man fired. He looked me in the eyes. I mean, can you imagine controlling trillions of dollars, having hundreds of billions in your account, and you enjoy the fact that the waiter can't pay their bills? You enjoy they're not doing good. You enjoy, I mean, can you imagine that?
Well, in the corporate world, you know, like I said, when you find out about this stuff, it seems incredible or like it's not credible. But then you find a book like David Rothkopf's Superclass. He's a member of the CFR and the Carnegie Institute. So he's telling you there's 6,000 individuals around the world who act as a superclass to whom laws don't really apply, and they control what we think is voted on with, you know, checks.
Rothkopf told me off air when he was head of the Kissinger Group, he said, "Why?" John Harmon was running the show and heard it. He goes, I came on, I know who you are, Alex. I came on because you need to join us. You need to be part of this. I'm just like, I mean, it's always the same.
True believers.
Well, they told me, you see it. You need to be part of it. The public will tear you into pieces.
Well, and I think a lot of that plays into the learned helplessness whenever they're too big to jail, you know, and they know, you know, if somebody else goes and steals a, you know, couple $100 TV or whatever, they're in prison. These guys are still, you know, trillions, right. and not anything happens to them. That plays into the learned helplessness. You know, it's just, that's more of the.
Well, no, it's like a pimp in that famous HBO piece. You know, she's been beat up, run over. You know, she's got broken bones, disfigured. And the pimp's going, you know, HBO goes, what do you pay her? And he goes, nothing. He goes, she's lucky if she eats once a day. She's lucky if I give her fried chicken. And the mother goes, how'd you do this to my baby? And the woman's groveling to the pimp. And that's what TSA, all of it is just worshiping that we're scum and filth, and the cops can kill us whenever they want, taser us whenever they want. It is they are breaking our will.
And the mind control of the pimp over the prostitute is no different than the person who owned a gladiator back in the day. A man small in stature could use fear and words and mind control a bigger man and get him to fight for entertainment. So what you have is the New World Order. The difference between them and us is that they don't have faith in the public. They think we're animals, and we have faith in the public. We know people can adapt, evolve, and overcome. They can learn. They can reignite their curiosity and start to take it upon themselves not to be a victim in this system that makes everyone a victim until you know what's going on.
Well, I just think it's important to get crazed again, like an original human, and just get angry. We have the instincts of the programming to crush psychos. They need to be crushed.
I mean, that's what got me motivated, was just the anger over it. You know, it's like after that you can't stop. You know, it's like, again, just that first step, and you get the motivation, you get moving forward, and getting angry at first is part of it. You know,
that's how you start thinking.
I'm a free human being. I mean, it's like what is it, like drawing the blood here in Texas?
Checkpoints.
It's like what if I don't even own my blood? You know,
well, they're just normalizing the tyranny.
Yeah.
And the general public's like the broken whore going, but he's my baby. You know, he's taking care of me when he beats me with a coat hanger. I mean, it's just incredible. And the anger is when you break out of the trance.
It's the outrage. It's the transfer from the anger to outrage where you actually start thinking and dissecting and paying attention and focusing on what they're doing. I think that's the step that people need to go through.
And then it's the resistance at any opportunity of the targeting. Just every level, you're going to bring them down. You're now in a war with them. And it gives your life meaning because survival is victory. And we've always been fighting for survival. This is what humans are meant to do. And we are under this scientific technocracy, the scientific dictatorship they're trying to complete. And the messages we've transmitted are going to grow in power against them as their program rolls out. This is going to echo forever. We don't know what chain reaction we're engaging in right now that will sever their control.
Yeah, and then after you start to develop a love for humanity, then that's really where you broke free. As you remove your conditioning, again start to learn reason, logic, how to think.
And commit. I mean, what about the feeling of commitment?
But I think the love for humanity, that's what drives so many of us, I think, to continue to do what we do and risk it.
I think you commit to think or not to think, and you have to make that choice. You're either going to be a thinker or you're going to be someone who responds to all the stimulus. America's future lies in individuals having autonomy, being able to ask questions, because all learning starts from the question mark. They teach us with declarative sentences in all these books. So you can't gain knowledge from hearing someone else use a declarative sentence. You have to go through your observation, identification, organization, and communication process to actually learn.
They're killing the scientific method.
Right. So they're doing this to us because they are kind of jealous of us. They can't be happy just with what we have as normal human beings. They have to have it all. They have a sickness, call it greed, call it aggression, call it whatever you want.
Control freakism.
Control freakism. And they've been trying to dissolve everything that made America what it was, to stand alone from the British and reintegrate us into an Anglo-American establishment. So, through the legacy of Cecil Rhodes and the CFR and Pilgrim Society and Foreign Affairs and all these different, working groups and different projects.
Yeah, tell me about this Foreign Affairs publication.
This Foreign Affairs article, basically it's talking about transnationalism, and transnationalists do not have grandiose plans for a one-world government, but they give various rules of force of law without having to win majorities for those rules in democratically elected legislatures. So basically, through this idea of transnationalism, they're changing America.
We don't want world government. We're just above the law.
Right, and they're above the Constitution. And so, in very clever word speak, you can learn. I mean, because they
always say we're not setting up world government.
Right.
We're setting up global governance.
I first became a fan of Foreign Affairs. There's a 1998 November issue.
Show people.
It's got the red tag on there. Where they talk about Osama bin Laden, war on terror, and all these things like 3 or 4 years before 2001. And the same people are writing the articles. Zelikow is one of the people. He was in charge of the 9/11 Commission. So you can totally see how they put out a business plan in a couple different articles in one CFR magazine in 1998, and then that comes to fruition.
And then PNAC rewrites it September 2000 and says, we need a Pearl Harbor attack so we can invade Afghanistan and take everybody's liberty.
Right.
I mean, they don't even mince words. It's all planned.
Right out in the open.
Yeah.
So, but you just got to do the research. Just find it, and that's what's again great about being able to get the resources that
But that's what's frustrating is it's all admitted,
and it's all out there. Like Della said, Americans don't read. But all these books, like I have 20 or 30 books just on the Rothschilds, autobiographies, biographies. Like this is their own primary sources. This isn't some tertiary.
No, they say they're doing it.
Right. It says on their own website, this is their history and Battle of Waterloo and the whole history that you hear about as conspiracy is on the official Rothschild websites. So as I went through and familiarized myself with how all these social institutions like Roll Call, Congressional Quarterly, Economist, those are all Rothschild entities. The official magazines of our Congress are owned through the Rothschild banking empire. So when you look at their control over media and politicians...
CIA set up National Review.
Sure. And so it's not just one group of people. There's a common agenda of collectivism that's gone on through history. And the individual is not able to demonstrate intellectual self-defense until you grasp the same tools that they're using against you and you use them for yourself for liberty and the liberty of others instead of trying to oppress everybody like they're doing.
Man, it is so amazing that they own the whole fake spectrum of alternative media, the so-called alternative media like Foreign Affairs, which is actually put out by the CFR, and they act like it's alternative, or you get things like National Review. And then I know I built all this myself with my listeners, and I'm not controlled. And I know there's other people that aren't controlled. I think that's what's really freaking them out, is that they were going off an old paradigm that, oh, they won't know how to use video editing. They won't know how to use this. They won't be able to do that. But it backfired. I think they're in deep trouble.
It's their own hubris, and what is it? Hillary Clinton said, they're losing the information war. I mean, they're coming out saying it.
What the gods would conquer, they must first divide. And if we make ourselves individuals who are unassailable intellectually, and we can bind together voluntarily with other individuals to secure our liberty.
Stay there. Come back and repeat that.
Pro One. All of your filtration in.
James Lane and Richard Grove are our guests, freemindsfilms.com. You can get the new film State of Mind and get a free film with it at InfoWarsStore.com for a very limited time, and that supports the broadcast. You guys will be back on the Nightly News tonight and back in studio with me tomorrow, where you head back to your hacienda in Oklahoma. And then we're going to shoot a big special report tomorrow that'll air when we premiere State of Mind for the PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. But you guys in the last 5 minutes, make any other points, because I really agree with your analysis. You guys have done your research, and I just think it's fantastic to see the knowledge of the globalist tyranny spreading. We now have the fire of Prometheus, with which we can burn the devil to the ground.
Well, we were saying that State of Mind touches on every subject that's covered on InfoWars. This is a hub that people can use to show friends and family all the spokes that they can go from there. It's a jumping point.
Cyber applies to every subject you guys cover on InfoWars, and so it's the primary thing. When we send our kids out to public schools without letting them know how to tell when someone's lying to them, we send our kids out in the world unprepared, and we never really outgrow that extent.
If you send them letting them know it's a brainwashing camp, it'll actually work against the enemy.
Right.
Because your kids genetically know to listen to you.
Right. So they spend a lot of time trying to divide and conquer our homes. And what the gods would seek to conquer, they must first divide. So if we recognize that there is an info war, there's a war on for our mind, and we need to get together with our friends and family, and we need to learn our way out of this. We need to act voluntarily to form groups. And that's how we keep ourselves safe, not by waiting for the state or the authorities to come and protect us. In the case of Boston, there's 1 million people on lockdown to find one 19-year-old suspect. That's unreasonable.
That's insanity.
It is
And
insanity.
just walking up to people's houses, and they're like, "Oh no, that's fine. Come on in."
And it's only going to get worse unless we, intellectually rise up, practice intellectual self-defense, which is knowing how to deal with the words and the lies and to process them and remove the fallacies so that we can actually find knowledge consistently.
Absolutely. You wanted to get into Huxley. I heard you mentioning him.
Well, you had mentioned Huxley before, and I couldn't help thinking about the Ultimate Revolution speech that he gave at Berkeley, I believe in 1961 or 62, where he says, we're going to make you love your servitude, and that the human being, if you don't think between stimulus and response, they're going to have total control, because there's a unity box on everyone's wall, and it's giving you the corporate media. It's giving you all the same news on every channel, different logos. It's all the same news. And so you have to get beyond that. You actually have to start using your observation skills and go beyond what they're showing you, and that's where the real world is. And that's what I think people can discover as a function of state of mind, is they can outgrow the status quo.
Well, we found an interview with Mike Wallace. Huxley was on there, 1953, and he basically described the world we're living in today.
No, he said Brave New World is our plan.
Yeah, and talking about the pharmacological control, of the anti-authoritarian personality. I mean, there it was. We see it every day. I mean, the kids are drugged. Anybody goes in for the slightest thing, it's like, oh, just fill them full of pharmaceuticals.
And then say you have no rights once you've been.
And those are results of the psychedelic revolution, which was part of MK Ultra Subproject 58. Jon Irvin at Gnostic Media has done a lot of great work on this, because there are CIA documents, FOIA request documents, where you can see J.P. Morgan and Company getting the financials. Here's how much money they're getting out of CIA, MK Ultra Subproject 58, and that goes in the Time Life magazine of May 27th, 1957. May 13th, 1957, Time Life. It's the introduction of magic mushrooms to the world through Henry Luce's Time Life magazine, run by C.D. Jackson, who was a psychological warfare specialist who worked with Nelson Rockefeller.
But then it backfired, and they wanted it removed, and then they brought out the Prozac.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And most of these psychotropic drugs are just a synthetic LSD without the trippiness to it. So they are very, molecularly, they're very similar.
They got them in dream states.
Yeah.
Program state. So people on this, 20% of the public roughly, are on a mind control programming drug now to be interfaced with the subliminals.
And Huxley's talking about that. It'll be a combination of propaganda and pharmacological control.
Diet, injections, and injunctions.
Bertrand Russell talks about this. Brzezinski talks about
this. Guys, get the film, State of Mind, InfoWarsStore.com. See you back live tomorrow. God bless you all.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.